Hello and welcome back to Artful Minds. Today we are looking at Ashes to Ashes, psychedelic artwork. I'm going to walk you through the use of 4 different types of hatching techniques that I needed in order to render this artwork. And I'm also going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly of creating psychedelic artworks. In this segment, I'm focusing on a mushroom. I want to create a sense of organicity and texture. To do this, I'm combining spiral-like lines, wave-like lines, and straight lines. Spirals create a psychedelic vibe, while the waves show the natural rhythm of growth. I'm also using straight lines a lot because they add structure, which helps ground the entire artwork. Now let's focus on the underside of the mushroom cap. Here, I'm primarily using straight lines, but I'm adding a bit of an engraving-inspired look. This means I'm introducing some deliberate, fine line accents from the very beginning, which help create visual interest and detail. Now I'm using the same engraving technique on the palm of this hand. Notice how I vary the density of the lines? By hatching some areas more densely, I can suggest shade and depth, giving the underside a 3-dimensional quality. This also helps to establish my light source, which in this artwork is coming from the top left. Now I'm focusing on a tree in the background, using large spirals and ball hatching to create a striking contrast. The spirals themselves will remain white, serving as visual highlights that draw attention and enhance the trance-like psychedelic feel of the artwork. Around these spirals, I'm filling the space with dense, solid black hatching. For the lips, I'm using a 0.05 micron liner to add fine details. By carefully layering these fine lines, I can suggest light and shadow without overwhelming the design. It's all about striking a balance between realism and the stylized psychedelic aesthetics of the piece. Now I'm working on a second mouth, aiming to create the look of a glossy lipstick that has a dripping slime-like quality. To achieve this, I'm using patches of white that will remain unhatched. These areas act as highlights, mimicking the reflective shine of glossy lipstick. However, the trick here is to be intentional with the placement of these highlights, as I need to consider that the light source is on the left top of my page. Cross-hatching is a fundamental part of my technique, and you'll see me using it a lot throughout this artwork. What makes it really interesting, though, is when I start combining straight lines with circular lines within the cross-hatching. This adds a layer of complexity and texture that creates a dynamic, almost hypnotic effect. We'll explore this more in depth a bit later when I begin rendering the clouds. Creating psychedelic artworks is, for me, like unlocking a universe within a single piece. There's so much that can happen on that page, so many layers, so many possibilities. And what's even more amazing is that you, as a viewer, will likely see something different every time you look at it. The artwork becomes like an open book, with no fixed ending, waiting for you to write its conclusion. How does this piece make you feel? Is it a place where you find peace, or do you feel something more intense, more unsettling? But I'll be honest with you, the process of creating these artworks doesn't always come from a happy place. A lot of time, my inspiration comes from my own battles with depression, mixed with some of my deepest fears and nightmares. Have you ever had a moment where you've been consumed by darkness or anxiety? For me, those moments often find their way into my art. Here's the thing though, psychedelic art isn't just about darkness. Sure, it's inspired by some of the tougher parts of life, but it's also what makes it so rich. How many of you have experienced the contrast between light and dark in your own life? These artworks are a blend of the beautiful and painful, the light moments and the struggles we face. It's like life itself, messy, complex, and full of contradictions, basically chaotic. Now let's dive into how I render the clouds, using a combination of circular and straight lines in cross-hatching. For the clouds, I want to create a soft ethereal feeling, fluffy and round, so I mix these two types of lines to add fluidity and depth. And volume, actually. The circular lines help to soften the form of the clouds, giving them a natural, airy quality, while the straight lines add structure and definition. As you can see, when it comes to the circular lines, I'm very intentional about how I use them. These lines are key to maintaining the roundness and softness of the clouds, so I have to place them carefully. If I'm not mindful of their flow and direction, they could break the illusion of roundness or make the clouds feel stiff, which would ruin the soft, ethereal effect that I'm going for. Now, can you see what happens in the area closer to the sun? My cross-hatching becomes much denser and darker. This contrast is crucial. It emphasizes the bright white central element of the artwork, which is the sun, while also creating depth in the surrounding clouds. By layering the lines, I can build up rich shadows and make sure that the area around the sun feels dramatic. When you look at this piece, what emotions or memories does it bring up for you? Let me know in the comments, and thank you for watching. Stay creative. Till next time.